Okay, I see that we're live.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Again, thank you for everyone joining us. I think we have all members participating, except for Brendan Wright, who indicated that he wouldn't be able to join us today due to a last minute conflict with something involving his child's school. And then we also have Eric and Hillary and Sean joining us as support. I thought maybe we'd go around the group and just see if anyone has any preliminary comments or thoughts they'd like to share before we start looking at maps again. Greg, or actually, Michael, you're the first person on my screen. Michael, do you have any comments or thoughts you want to share?
No, I've got maps in front of me. I actually have hard copies so I can think better,
Great.
and I'm ready to go.
Great.
I
Thank you.
mean, yes, I could have skipped ahead and done the poll, but I'm ready to do the meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Greg, any comments or thoughts you want to share before we dive in?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Emma Smith, any comments? Okay. Marianne, any thoughts or comments before we dive in?
Yes, I just want to say a very heartfelt thank you to Sean for all of the work that she's done and her responsiveness to our various questions. It's so appreciated. So thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
100% agree on behalf of everyone. Lisa, any comments or thoughts you want to share? Okay. Salon?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Harold, anything you want to share before we get started?
No, not at this time.
Okay. I'm going to share just a couple thoughts before we dive in, just to let you know where my head's been at, what I've been working on. Of course, what I shared with you, I've been giving continuous thought to the population distribution and how nicely it fits into when you divide total population by 8 and you get about 12% represents one ward. It kind of fits nicely to if we had an ideal world where we had 4 wards that were majority white and 2 that were majority Hispanic and 2 African American. It would match up with our racial and ethnic diversity in the city. I realize it's one of many goals and not the only goal. That's, like I said, on my mind. Separately, I've been meeting with a couple older persons, and I do take in full value that this is not the older person's plan. This is our independent plan that we're coming up with. But my perspective is, ideally, we come up with a plan that we all think meets our goals and objectives, and would get passed and get at least 5 votes, and preferably more than 5 votes. So I've been wanting to continuously get older person input, and so I have some changes toward the map that I proposed, map 2. So when we get to it, I kept map 2 in place because that's what we've seen, but there's now a 2B that's in a system that when we get to it, I will ask Sean to pull up, and then I'll walk through the differences between 2 and 2B and what I was trying to accomplish. So that's what's on my mind. In the past, and I think probably is a good format, we started with alternative 1, the first map, and kind of talk through them, and we could maybe as we go, we might be able to say for sure, yes, this is a keeper, or B, discard. And if we can't do that as we go, then we have the poll at the end. So we'll see whether it becomes obvious from discussion or if we need the poll. Does that sound like a good plan for everybody? Okay, I'm only seeing nods up and down, so we'll continue. All right, so for map 1B, Sean, if you're able to pull that up.
Do you want me to do the print map or bring it up in the redistricting tool?
The redistricting tool is probably
okay.
Although if we did it as the one that was shared with everybody, it looked familiar with everybody. So maybe we should use that version.
Yeah, we can switch back and forth too.
Okay. I want to apologize. So when I was trying to categorize as either white, African American, Hispanic, or I was using a term balanced, and I don't think I was consistent with what I was considering balanced. So I kind of scrapped that train of thought, to be honest. And if there was one ward that had a higher number, even if it was 1 or 2% higher, I'm now just calling that for that whatever was the majority rather than trying to maintain this concept of balance. So I apologize if that threw anybody off or that I was inconsistent. So Greg, this was Greg's suggestion. This does leave us with a majority white in 5 wards, and Hispanic in 2, 3, and 6, and African American in 1, which is Ward 4. Greg, any more thoughts on this that you'd like to share?
Well, I I think it preserves the public housing in 1 ward, even though in Ward 6 it preserves the Harbor House, Eastport Terrace, and Robinwood in 1 district, and those are going to have substantial changes in the next 10 years. And the alderman made a successful argument to me that having them together under 1 alderman would be helpful.
Great.
So that's why I really try to keep those together.
Great. Sorry, I just got a quick work thing. I just got distracted for a second. So I apologize.
And then with the Ward 1, Ward 2 changes I made, they were very mechanical and I'm not wedded to them at all. I just made numbers work.
Greg, if I could, I'm curious to, I think it's a very good map. I'm curious to try something. So if maybe Sean, if we could play with, maybe, I don't want to mess with that map, so maybe we save it as a 1C. Could I tweak a couple things and see if that gets us slightly more balanced?
Sure.
I don't want to mess up the map as it is. So
Can
Sean,
you see the redistricting tool?
yes, perfect. So if you could find where Bay Ridge Gardens is towards the bottom where it becomes, we had moved it from Ward 6 to 7.
It's down at the end of that corridor.
Yep. And I think it's 3 little blocks that are make up. Yep. I'd like to move them back to 6.
And find my unmute button.
Okay. And then to offset that, if you go slightly north, where is it? I'm looking for that Green Acres part that's in Ward 8. So right at the bottom of the green, the Ward 8 green, slightly south. Yep. So from there, could we move the those bottom 3 blocks that we moved in another map towards that, towards 7, right? Exactly. How does that affect the numbers?
Let's see, for Ward 6,
Mm.
you are at a 7.5 deviation,
Oh,
and Ward 7, you're at a 3.1, and Ward 8, you're at a 7.2.
okay. And Ward 6 was at a negative 0.7 or negative
a
7?
Positive.
A positive 7.
Yeah, I actually, this map was one of my top 3. And when I looked at the deviations, the only one that was glaring to me was Ward 6 at a negative 3.24, which is still within our deviation allotment and isn't as high as some of the other deviations that we look at in the map. So for me, it makes sense to leave it the way it is. And going back to your concept of balanced, even though it was a little tricky, I think there's a fairly good distribution the way it is.
Okay. Yeah, with those, I was trying to keep at Bay Ridge Gardens in Ward 6. That's what I was trying to toy with. But there's a lot of people there, so that changed the numbers quite a bit. Okay. All right, we can scrap that alternative. Thanks for letting me experiment with that. So I think it was, do we want to get like an informal poll on 1B or just wait till the end? Anyone have any opinion on it?
We can
Yeah.
wait to the end.
Wait till the end. Okay. Okay. Then if we could pull up 2B, the one, Sean, that you and I toyed with today. And I used original 2 as the starting point. And what we did was I was trying to get this was the closest to the 4-2-2 majority wards as far as 4 white, 2 African American, 2 Hispanic liaison, but it wasn't quite there. So I was trying to get Ward 6 rather than be what I initially called balanced, but it was actually slightly Hispanic. I was trying to get it to be a majority African American, so that with it in Ward 4, those would both be majority African American while keeping wards 3 and 5 majority Hispanic. And to do that, the main change was Robinwood, which is that little spot in the bottom. Thank you. We added Robinwood and the block next to it to Ward 6. We had to do the block next to it, of course, for the to have everything next to each other. Blank on the word, sorry. The other changes we made were in Ward 7 to keep that wind whisper area we had chunked out from Ward 7 to Ward 8. I put it back in Ward 7 because it really broke up that neighborhood.
Wait, Jared, I'm a little confused.
Sure.
2 things. I need you at one point to go back to your Robinwood comment, but more importantly, right now, you said something about moving Wind Whisperer out of Ward 7.
So we had the concept 2, map 2 had half of Wind Whisperer moving from 7 to 8.
Okay, are you aware that that's where Rob Savage lives?
I am.
Did you disenfranchise him?
I did. And so exactly that my conversation with Rob might have influenced why I'm undoing it.
I would
today.
say.
Yes.
Okay. But
Yes.
then could you go back and talk for a second about what you did with Robinwood?
Sure.
Because I
Yeah, no
missed
problem.
that.
So without moving, the screen's perfect where it is. You see where Robinwood is?
Yeah.
It's that yellow carve out. So
Mhm.
that block and the block that it touches in my previous plan had both moved from Ward 5. They actually would have stayed in 5. And in here, they go to 6.
Okay, so besides Robinwood, what is it that's going to 6?
That's the main point that goes to 6. I had to
Okay.
then do some fine tuning, but obviously Robinwood is heavily African-American. So by moving it from 5 to 6, it made 5 less African-American and more Hispanic, and it made 6 a lot more African-American and helped bump up that percentage to now make it a majority African-American ward.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And again, although looking at the map as we are, it looks weird to have Robinwood. I can tell you from practical experience representing, there it is literally the fence around it and a woods around it. So even if Robinwood was in Ward 7 with the rest of Hunt Meadow or Ward 5, it is a distinct closed neighborhood. There's one road in and out, and that's only access from Forest Drive. So while it looks funny from a map on a practical standpoint, I think it works just fine as proposed here. So going back to the Wind Whisper portion, because I undid moving Rob out of his own ward. And it's not really just about Rob. I realize aldermen change over time, and we're doing this change for the good of the city, not the good of any one alder person. It did break up that neighborhood. I think that was a fair point. But to balance the numbers, the space, Sean, I don't know if you're able to move to the cursor right above the yellow of Ward 6. Yep, exactly. That's the area that we moved from 6 to 7 to keep its numbers up. Well, actually, we got its numbers from moving Hunt Meadow. Hope I'm not confusing myself. The other spot that we moved to make this balance is all the way by Bates. And I couldn't get to 422 without moving Bates to a different ward. And in this case, it ends up in Ward 1 to keep the numbers. So we know Alderwoman Finlayson is not going to be happy about that. And it sincerely wasn't trying to pick on her. But that's the changes that you see in that little quadrant. And there's a few moving parts there were the only way I was able to get, stay within the 5% deviation. So that's not ideal. If you look at the target deviations, it's all legal. It's all within 5%, but some of them are bigger than I would like. There's a +4 and a -4 that I don't like, but it's legal. But what I like about this and offer for your consideration, it does get us to the 422. So I think I'll stop talking and see. Oh, the one other thing, Sean, if you could scroll between 1 and 2, wards 1 and 2. I was basically got back to the changes for around Aubrey Court that we had discussed with one of the other plans. And so there was some tweaking around West Street to the left and where the cursor is, where Aubrey Court is, to get closer to matching one of the other plans that we had developed that the alderwoman from Ward 1, Ellie Tierney, was commenting on. I think those were relatively minor changes, and it was just between Ward 1 and 2. So I'll pause this time for any comments on the alternative to 2.
Jared, let me say that in terms of getting to the target deviations, given the coarseness and the randomness of the blocks we were given to work with the state, that's the least thing I'm concerned about. I wouldn't want half -5s and half +5s, but I think, being in the 3s and 4s, it doesn't bother me at all. It's the last on the list, rather.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to comment whether they like this alternative better than the original 2?
I don't like that alternative for all the reasons that were pointed out by Alderwoman Finlayson when we talked with her. I think you're losing a lot. The constituents are losing a lot, not having that representation that comes to the 4 being a part of Ward 4.
Okay. Thank you.
And also, can you zoom in back just a little bit more? Sean, I couldn't make out one thing when you were talking about the Clay Street area. I just wanted to see the map a little clearer. Sorry, I'm older, can't see. Okay, thank you. Just give me a second, okay. All right, thank you.
So there was one comment against this. Does anyone like this, that they want to keep this in consideration?
I have a comment, and I'm not sure if I'm for or against it. I actually liked the first iteration of Ward 2 or of map 2 better than this one. I think it's very laudable, and I think the goal of going 422 is a really good goal, but I'm not comfortable with some of the juxtapositions. I recognize, as we've said before, that the alder people certainly have a vested interest in their wards, but when we are considering this, we have to realize that nothing changes representationally for the alderman or the constituents until the next election. So there's that, and that I think is speaking specifically to Rhonda and Sheila, because they have such a strong identity with their wards. I am concerned about moving Ward or Bates out of Ward 4 for the reasons that Salon had mentioned. There is a very strong identification. To be honest with you, Jared, I actually liked the first version of the map better than the one that you've got there.
Good to know. Thank you. So 2 against. Anyone want to argue why we should keep this in consideration? Should we just scrap it and go back to the original 2? Michael, I can't tell if you're raising your hand.
I am now. I had
Okay.
to find the button. I prefer the original 2. Sorry.
No offense taken. This is not a, yeah, it's all good. Good to know what people think. All right, I don't hear anyone voicing support for the alternative, so why don't we just not waste any more time on it and move on. So we have 2 reasonably well received, but not the alternative. All right, 3, I think, was Mary Ann. Anything else you want to talk about with 3? Oh, I'm sorry. Before, one comment on 2, and I still, this has my support. Alderman Arnett expressed the concern about educating that large group of Hunt Meadow and Annapolis Overlook. Basically, any community that changed. He was just expressing concern of people showing up to the wrong polling location because the city doesn't do a good enough job on education. And it was, obviously this map has a lot of changes, perhaps the most of the alternatives. So it wasn't his concern was just that education piece, not any particular neighborhood changing from one to another.
Yeah, well, we've got 3 years and 9 months to educate the public.
Yep, just want to be transparent and
Yeah.
for what I heard.
I had actually forgotten which of the maps was the one that I had proposed. So I guess this is the map that I did. The deviations are all within range, but a couple of them are a little high. Ward 4 is 3.79, and Ward 6 and Ward 7 are negative 4.3 and 3.16, respectively. The thing that I was working with, as I said before, when I started looking at it, was how does it look if we were just looking at it for contiguous space? How does that map, how do the maps work? And so that was my reason going into it. The concern would be that there is, Jared, I had this all figured out with your concept of balanced until I realized that balanced was probably not going to work. So right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white, 2 African American, or 2 Hispanic, and 1 African American. So that's a little concerning. But of all of the maps, this one was in the top 3 for the least amount of significant deviations off of that 5. And so that's where I'll leave that.
Okay, anyone have questions about 3? One thing I want to go back to, if I can, like I said, one of the changes I tried making in the alternative was getting the Wind Whisper community back together again. And in alternative 3, the way Marianne moved Green Acres, I think was a more effective way of moving people. So although we liked 2, if we forget all the other changes, including Bates, but just try to fix that piece in Wind Whisperer, are you all okay with us trying to fix that piece?
You mean putting Wind Whisperer back in and taking Green Acres out?
Yes.
Yeah. And I live right there in that area, and it makes more sense to me to have Green Acres and Park Place or whatever it is in Ward 7.
Right. So if Sean, if you could help me do that to 2. I wouldn't do it from 2B because we made so many other changes. I think I would go to 2. So that little, yep, that 282, it's a big chunk of people. So the first block that you moved, does that have to go with it?
Yeah,
Because
because that really screwed up the deviations.
Yep. So if we go to 8 and then, that one should be 7. Right, but then the one below it that we carved out and then everything to the left goes to 8. Yep,
This one?
yep, and then to the left as well.
Oh.
And doesn't, yep,
Yeah, that keeps your numbers.
right. And so are we back to good? I can't see the numbers well enough. Are we back to within 5%?
Your highest is 3.48 positive and 7.
Okay. So is everyone okay with those couple changes to map 2 and otherwise keep it the same?
I'm good.
All right, thank you.
Should I make this 2C?
I think just save it as 2 and keep it as 2,
Okay.
unless anyone objects to that. So, Marianne, thank you for the suggestion about the Green Acres Parks. I obviously stole your how you solved that there.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Yeah, I like 3 as one of the considerations because has not a ton of changes. It satisfies the goals, gets us within 5% for everyone. And so it's in my top 3. Okay. 4, are we ready to talk about 4 then?
Are we
And-
skipping 3?
We just talked about 3. Was there anything else
Oh,
to talk
okay.
about with 3?
I'm sorry.
Okay. And 4, Michael, I think this was yours.
Yes.
Okay.
I will be honest, I'm not married to it. I am open to change. Actually, I'm more partial to 5A than 4. So
Should we discard 4 then and just move on to 5?
I can.
For what it's worth, that would be what my choice is. When I looked at it, it's really unbalanced. And I think we've got maps that do a better job of balancing.
Okay. Michael, you're okay with that? That gets us down to 5 maps at least.
Yep. Keep going.
Yeah. All right. Well, 5A is yours as well, if you want to
Yes.
continue with that.
Now 5A is still on my top 3. I can't explain it. Getting the numbers now. I mean, it's workable. It's still open to suggestions.
So the input I got from the alderperson was, from looking at this, was maybe a small change. I'll just say it before Sean does anything, but
Okay,
the bottom of where Ward 7 meets Ward 6, where we moved Bay Ridge Gardens from
Yeah.
6 to 7.
mm-hmm, They
If
wanna move it-
Yeah, back to Ward 6.
okay,
And then just north of that, where Bay Ridge Avenue meets what I think is Tyler, we made some changes to 8, from 7 to 8. So we undid those two changes. I think you still meet your numbers, but probably have a better African-American representation in Ward 6. Is my guess without actually having Sean do it.
So we're going to move this back to 6.
Yes. It just, yeah, that one and that one. And then going north up Bay Ridge Avenue.
How about this 52? That doesn't. I think that one's okay.
That, yep, those blocks right there, if we put those back in 8,
These,
yep. I think they were in 8, or they were in 6.
I don't think they were. in
Which ones are you talking about? Because this is my neighborhood. And I
It's-
can tell you exactly what is what.
The 2 blocks that she just changed to Ward 8. I'm trying to see if they should go to,
Okay, is that?
Ward.
It's hard to see. If you could tell me, like, is that the Cedar Ridge neighborhood that you moved?
it's the,
No,
it's the
Yeah.
intersection of Bay Ridge. Yeah, it is Cedar Ridge.
Okay, because that right now is Ward 7. What does that do to the numbers? Because that would make Ross my alderman, and I'm very nervous.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
he's not
It-
the word alderman, Marianne.
I know it's the best, but we'll just leave it that.
so what
it
does
makes
that do?
7. It makes 7 too low. So if you wanted to put them in 7,
Okay,
it might balance it better.
Move them to 7.
You're still at 6 deviation and 7 being low.
Yeah.
what if you do the next 2 blocks above it?
You've crossed Tyler Avenue at that point, just so you know if that's a natural boundary.
Okay,
And they're already, I thought they were in. No, it's just, no, you're right.
That makes all the deviations within 5. Your highest is 3.1.
and does it help Ward 6's African-American population go up by moving Bay Ridge Gardens back?
Your Hispanic is 39, white 27, black 27.
So it did balance it out a bit between, it lowered the Hispanic and raised the African-American. Michael, this is your plan. What do you think of those changes? Do you like them or do you want to discard them?
I can live with those changes. We can keep it.
So I'm gonna
So I'm
change
good with,
5A.
I'm good with the amended 5A.
And I have a question on this one. For Ward 3,
Yes.
I think we lost the Popular Avenue area, but we got something else down in the corner. I couldn't make out what that was. Right there, right on the 4.
Water line, I believe.
Yeah, uh-huh. Okay, where is it? I'm sorry.
I
The little
believe-
piece right there? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we gained that. Just that one little square, we already had half of it. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on 5A?
Not from me.
And then alternative 6. And I'm forgetting who created this to discuss it. Harold, or still, was this Harold? I think it might have been Harold's.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I had 6. Let me see what those numbers are. What was that Ward 1? -4. Okay. You want to know what it? I can explain it again.
Oh, just what you liked about it, what you were trying to accomplish.
Or it went off.
Which view would you like? This one with the numbers?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's fine. I just trying to look at it, trying to get hold of street names because it's on the phone. Because on here it's not. I got it on on one different screen, one screen. The thing I was trying to do was look at the numbers, stay within the deviation, and also one of the things that we talked about before is about people, what the constituents would think, about the war changing. And I didn't want to chop up the ethnic groups within the city. I wanted to keep, the voting block where you have a Hispanic voting block. I wanted to keep them together. The African-American voting block, I wanted to keep them together and avoid lawsuits. So that's what I was trying to accomplish with that map.
Okay. And anyone have any questions or want to make any suggestions for this map? So we right now have 5 maps in consideration. 1B, 2, which we slightly modified, 3, 5A that we slightly modified, and 6. I think we're ready for at least a starting point poll, and it'd be nice to see where everyone's head's at. I guess I should ask before we do that, are we set? Do we still think that 3 is the right number to send to public hearing, or do we want to increase that number up to 5 or 4?
I'm fine with 3.
I am as well.
3 or 4, I don't care.
3?
3.
Okay.
I do have one question, because it's going in front of the council. How much time will they have to go over this, or will they be able to look at their own maps or try to make their own maps from this without, they go with something different? Will they be able to, will they have time to do that?
So just want to make sure I answer it specifically. So the next step, I thought we were just voting on 3 maps to go to the public hearing, which is in 2 weeks. And then we were going to meet after that public hearing and reconvene on where we are at that point. So at that point, we could come up with the one preferred choice, and we could rank them 1, 2, and 3. I think I certainly don't want to give them more than 3 options. Maybe only 2 options, and maybe even only 1, but I think probably 2 options probably at that point, but we'll see. We'll see where the group goes. At that point, the council could do anything they want. They can throw out everything we send them. I like the idea of giving them a couple choices, so probably increase the chances that they don't throw out everything we send them. But they could start from scratch if they choose to.
Okay.
Yep. And so we'll have we'll ask for, and I assume that we'll get a work session where the council will have a chance to hear our presentation on why we chose what we did, and they'll pepper us with questions, and we'll explain again about like these big blocks. When you have a block of 500 people, really difficult to move those blocks, and you can't move out this little street because of the blocks is a frustration I think we've all had, just the artificial nature of the block system. But they'll have a chance to pepper us about that, and potentially they send us back for more work, potentially they just take it over themselves. That's why I've been trying to involve them throughout, and I'd like to continue involving them so that we don't send something to them that they throw out. That's personally how I feel about it. Okay.
Before we do our straw poll, can we look at the changed map 2 again?
Sure. I will say one older person I haven't had a chance to talk with yet is Brooks, who represents Ward 5. I've tried setting something up. I think we're looking more like middle of the month, which is fine, but obviously Ward Alternative 2 really breaks up Ward 5 the most. So I am very curious about his reaction.
Yeah, it really did.
Now, is this the original 2 that we're looking at now?
The original 2, as we slightly modified it today to put Wind Whisper back in Ward 7.
Okay.
So the biggest deviation is now Ward 7, but I can't quite see the number. Is that a +348?
Yes.
Okay. And what did it do to Ward 2? But they're still all within. Okay, thank you.
So, just to clarify the response there, I think it was +3 for Ward 7. It's -2.7 for Ward 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was looking at the comparison between 2 and 7, which were our original concerns. Okay.
Ideally in that, I'd like to make 7 a little smaller because we know that 7 is going to grow with Parkside Preserve. So if there was something in there at 7, and I think that Green Acres, if we move back, oh, that's already an 8. That little spot below Green Acres, if we made that Ward 8, would that help? A little south of that. Yeah, just
Green Acres is way down. It's across
So
from
just-
Cedar Ridge.
just
Yeah.
that little bit of purple there. Just south of that. Yeah, there. I wonder if we move that to Ward 8, if that would help our numbers just a little bit.
Is that Victor Haven?
No,
That made the numbers a little better. And what if you go the one right below that? Yeah. That really minimizes the deviation. So I'd prefer that if you guys know the neighborhoods better. So maybe you could help me on whether that was a good move for the neighborhoods.
What are the street names?
It's Alder, Dogwood, Basewood, All around Germantown East Elementary.
Yeah, Georgetown East. My concern is that little skinny finger of purple
Yep.
that's sticking up.
Can we move that to either Ward 8 or Ward 6?
What if we moved the skinny purple to Ward 8 and then the block that says 32 back to Ward 7? So then take that 32 it's just a little to the right of the
This one?
skinny one.
That's 82.
Oh, okay.
That one here, this
That
one?
makes, yeah, okay. I'm trying to think no, because that disenfranchises it. What happens if you leave it the way it was? Put 82 back into, yeah, and then what do our numbers do?
Your highest deviation is 2.91. And that's 5, which is low.
Okay, I like this way because it's keeping that green more contiguous and it's not
Yep.
making those funny little
Agreed.
skinny.
Fingers.
Yep, I'm good with
Yeah.
that. For
Yeah, I
Jill.
like that.
Any objections to that, making this the new Ward 2? I mean, the map 2, I meant to say.
No.
Okay. So we'll make this the new 2.
I'm sorry, can I see one thing? I just wanted to know, what is the racial makeup of Ward 6 before that?
Before the change we just did,
Yeah, no. But
Originally?
What is it originally?
Originally, it's 34% Hispanic, 23% white, and 38% African American.
Okay. So, hold up, say that again. What was it? Hispanic?
34 Hispanic, 38 African American.
Okay, so now African-American, so African-American was number 1 in that ward, but on this map, it becomes number 3.
How do the wards break down with this new one?
It's still 4 white and 4 minority. Wards 3 and 5 are Hispanic. Ward 4 is well, I'm looking at old numbers, so I should look at the
Yeah,
screen.
that's not right.
Yeah, I gotta look at the screen instead of my printout. This is old. I'm squinting. Sean, if you could help me. Any chance to make that part of the screen bigger?
Thank you, Sean.
Oh,
there we
there we go. Yay. Okay.
All right, so
Got used to
29.
did I mash you out, Mr. Lloyd?
I got it.
all right, so with this one we have Ward 1 is certainly a ward as white. Just Ward 2 is white. Ward 3 is Hispanic. Ward 4 is African American. Ward 5 is Hispanic. Ward 6 is white by a slim majority. That's not what I was aiming for. And then Ward 7 or 8 are white. So this gets back. So before we had made those changes, we had only 4 majority white wards. Now we're back to 5.
But we are closer with Ward 6 to your concept of balanced. I
In terms
know
of
we
ultimate
were throwing-
population, just
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I know we're throwing that out, but yeah, those changes did skew that quite a bit.
Yep.
But I'm gonna say I still like the original map too.
Right.
Because then we've got 4 and one that's for sure, anyway, yeah.
I think we still had to fix the wind whisper issue. So the original 2 had, and that's not, that breaks up that community. too much.
Okay, yep,
So let's, if I've got everyone's patience, if I haven't exceeded everyone's patience, we can go back to that corner where we still put wind whisper back in 7, but refine what we did right there. Yep. Put some of that, I think it was back in Ward 7. Right? Isn't that, no, it was Ward 6 that we changed. What did we take out of Ward 6 to change it?
Robinwood. But just recently?
now,
Yeah, just in these past few changes. Although moving Robinwood, this is the path I went on, and that led to the alternative.
Yeah.
That messed up the numbers overall. So that the changes we made in Green Acres did something to Ward 6, right? Did we change anything out of Ward 6 just now?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we touched Ward 6.
Okay.
but-
Yeah,
Well, let's look at the numbers. From Ward,
In your original 2, you had cut up Bay Ridge Gardens into 2 sections, 1 in 7 and 1 in 6. And that's not the way it is on that map. So that's a change.
You know, I misspoke. Remember, I said how I was calling some things balanced, but my original map 2 still had Ward 6 as a white majority, just barely by 1.5 points. But I should have called that a majority white, as slim as the majority it is. So that's really not any different than where we ended up. Yeah, that's about where we are now. Anyone see any ways to make Ward 6 a little bit more African-American or a little less white?
Without adding Robinwood back.
That's the path I went on earlier that made the rest of the numbers difficult. I'm fully in favor of moving Robinwood, and that you have to move the next block as well.
Right.
For contiguousness. But it's a lot of people, and so it messes up your total count. But I certainly agree. I like the idea of moving Robinwood in that next block back to 6.
Let's look at that 81 and 170 on Tyler Avenue.
oh, go this way.
What if so 6 gets too big and 5 loses people? If we move Robinwood, 5 gets too small.
Hold on, let me look at the top part. And you gave that to 5 from. Right.
From this map, Ward 3 is a little big. If there was a way to move, but moving from 3 all the way to 6 is difficult. When we could leave this, it still leaves 5 wards majority white. It's awfully close though. So I mean, you would think a good candidate of any race could win, I would think.
Mhm. I mean, trying to get to the penny on this is discounting the fact that who knows how many voters of each set make it out the door that day.
100% agree.
Much
Yep.
bigger factor than who's there.
You're absolutely right. Okay, should we leave this alone then?
Yes.
Okay. Harold or Salon, any suggestions on changing this, or should we move on and just keep this the way it is right now?
Move on. I mean, you can't do anything else about that.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So what's everyone's preference? You want to do a poll now? And I think I got the sense that we're in agreement that 3 is the right number to send to a public hearing. So do you want to do this verbally and have a discussion about top favorites, or should we just take the poll and see where that leaves us?
Can I see, this is,
Take the poll. Let's take the poll.
Okay. Hillary, we'll
Yes.
get instant results, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And you can do it again. You can do it as many times as you want, I think.
okay, thanks.
Mhm.
So, Sean, if you could unshare the screen, and then I'm not sure do we then go to the poll?
Yes, you should be able to, I'm never sure how things appear on other people's screen, but at the bottom, like where you see share screen and things like that, there should be a thing that says polls.
Hillary, it says the host and panelists cannot vote. So the way you have it set up, I can't vote.
Okay, let me try to fix that. Oh, because you're all panelists, maybe only attendees can vote, and there are no attendees in our webinar format.
Right.
Let's see.
Life's challenges. If we were meeting in person, this would be easier, but that was not to be.
Yeah, when I set it up, it said the host would not be able to vote, but it didn't
Yeah.
say that panelists couldn't vote. That seems
It
silly.
says I can vote.
Oh, okay. So how do you do that, Sean? Will you walk us through?
I went at the bottom of the screen, like you said, next to share screen, there's polls.
Mhm.
Oh, it does say it is in red letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I can't vote. Sorry.
Yeah, the
It was
poll
such a
comes
good
up. I just
idea,
can't
though.
participate.
Yeah, I gotcha. I could
Hey,
make
Jared,
you all
uh,
attendees so you could vote.
Well, can we do
Jared,
it?
map
Well,
1, were we looking at 1B or 1C?
1B.
Good question.
1B.
So 1C, what was the answer?
1B, because I thought you decided to scrap 1C.
Right. I guess
Yeah.
you guys should start by telling me I could do this verbally if you'd like.
Why don't we
But I
just-
thought,
Yeah. If you can't make us not panelists, I think that's might be our only option.
I can create a quick survey 1, 2, 3, and you can send it.
Is everyone okay doing this verbally? Should we?
That's fine with me.
I'm fine with
Okay.
it verbally.
Okay.
All
so
right.
to start with, if you could tell me what the final names are. We have 1B, we have 2, 3,
3.
4.
We
Five.
dropped 4. We dropped 4 as an option.
Okay, 5 is still called 5A.
5B.
5B.
5B, okay.
B,
And 6.
And 6.
It's just 6.
Okay, so the options are 1B, 2, 3, 5B, or 6.
And it's 2 as amended.
Right.
2 as amended, okay. Okay, so did you want me to go around, Jared?
Yes, that'd be great.
Ms. Wilson, what are your top 3?
6, 2, and 3.
Okay, Mr. Lloyd?
can I come back?
Yes, no problem. Mr. Brennan?
I'm looking at the last one. I have 2. I'm just looking at the last one.
1B, 3, and 6.
Okay. Mr. Webb?
1B, 3, 5B.
Ms. Smith? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, 1B, 2 amended, and 5B.
Okay. Ms. Matthews?
6, 5B, and 1B.
Ms. Arnett?
1B, 2 amended, and 3.
And Mr. Littman?
I've been struggling picking, but I think I'll land on 1B, 2 amended, and 6. Although I kind of like something good to be said about all of them, so I'm having a tough time. But that's why I got to pick, so that's my pick.
Okay, Mr. Webb, I'm sorry, I went right by you, didn't I?
No, you got me.
Oh, I got you,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now you
Oh,
got
it
back
was
to me.
Mr. Lloyd that we
All
had to go back to. Mr. Lloyd?
I'm going with 1B, 6, and 3.
Tranquilo.
Okay, so 1B is the most popular with 7 votes. Number 3 and number 6 were tied with 5 votes, followed by 2, which had 4 votes, and 5B, which had 3 votes.
Okay.
So if you went by this and were to choose 3 tonight, it would be 1, 5, and 6.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 1, don't listen to me. 1, 3, and 6 are the most popular by this.
Brandon gave me his votes. I'm sure to mention that already. He voted for 2, 6, and 3.
Oh, okay. So 2 now has 5 votes, 3 has 6.
I don't think that changes anything.
No.
Nope. Keeps it the same, yeah. 1, 3, and 6 are the most popular.
Okay.
I would say that last vote eliminates 5B because that, takes
Mm-hmm.
it even further out of contention.
Right. Okay. Are we, as a group, comfortable with going with 1B, 3, and 6?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Then
So
I
somebody
think-
should have an official vote on that.
Oh, I will. I'll try to do the wording if you like, or someone else wants to do the wording.
Motion to approve maps 1, 3, and 6 to be under consideration in a public meeting. To be presented in the public meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Seeing none, no abstentions, and the motion passes. Thank you,
Aye.
Michael. Thank you for the group. All right, so we have 3 maps. The next steps, we need to discuss the public hearing itself. We have a date, but I'd like to nail down a time. We initially had a time of 5 o'clock. When we had the last meeting, we went to 7 PM to be more convenient. It is, let's see, the date is the 15th. To keep in mind, if we move it to the 15th, I don't know how much this will be an overlap for people, but there is the event called the State of Black Annapolis, night number 2 or 3. I'm not sure if it's night 2 or 3, but there's 3 nights of that, and that's at least one of them. So if we move it to 7 PM, we'd be conflicting with that event, which I don't love. Any opinions on? We could actually move the day. We can move the public hearing to the next day, the 16th, and avoid the conflict altogether as one option. There's lots of options, but that might moving it to the 16th at 7 PM. I'll throw out there.
That works for me.
I think that's a better option.
Yeah,
I can't do that Tuesday at 7 anyway, so it would, but I could have Josh available. So either way for us.
Yeah,
So the way-
I have a conflict on Tuesday as well at 6 from 6 to 8, so I prefer to move it, but I shouldn't be the one to decide.
Well, and
So-
that, the conflict that you have, Eric, is might be a popular public meeting as well, so.
Okay, so can we just simply do motion to move the public hearing to February 16th? Is
At
that what,
7 Yep,
at 7 PM?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No abstentions. Okay, that was easier than I expected. The next decision is virtual or in person. As a public hearing, I prefer to do it in person personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy with in person.
Agree.
So
yeah,
let's,
I think map would be a little bit easier for everybody to see in person.
absolutely. All right, Hillary, would you mind seeing if we can get Pitt Moyer Rec Center
I
at
will.
7 PM that day? Very
If
good.
you, yep, I can do that.
Okay. And if, I don't know if you need a secondary, I hope you don't need a secondary choice or location.
No,
But-
the only problem with Pipmore, it would be that we can't broadcast. Really, we probably can't broadcast, period. It would need to be, people need to attend if they want to, though they can comment either by the written, they can send in comments
Okay.
through the website, or they would need to appear in person because we won't be able to broadcast. There are 2 other meetings that night that have TV staff, so.
Okay, so it's not the location that's keeping us from being able to broadcast. It's
Yeah, it's
that-
really not. I was thinking it was at first, but then I looked at the schedule and thought we wouldn't be able to do it either. Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, so we'll have plenty of options. We'll make sure that the notice goes out in English and Spanish. And I will have a translator available at the meeting. So I'm not sure what equipment we'll have available to do simultaneous translation, but at least we'll have somebody there that can assist people. So.
Very good, thank you.
And I'll look into the equipment.
Okay. I think the rest of the schedule works still. And just to revisit it, so we have this public hearing now on the 16th. And then public comment gets cut off. I don't think I have that in my calendar when public comment gets cut off, but before the next meeting is on March 15th. And I'm thinking just one meeting after the public hearing is probably going to be enough, since we've already made so much work narrowing it down to 3. I mean, who knows what public comments we get, but my instinct is that we'll be fine with just waiting until March 15th, unless anyone wants to move up that meeting just to be closer to having the public comments fresh in our minds. Was it, no, just leave it where it is, right? Okay.
Didn't you say you had a conflict for that date, the March 15th date?
I don't see why I would. I think I'm fine on the 15th.
Okay.
Now you make me paranoid though.
I thought that was when you said you were going to be traveling.
No, I think I'm fine on the 15th.
Okay.
I think it was maybe February, when one of the dates, I don't know, I'll have to I'm looking at my calendar, and I don't see a problem for it, so
Great.
hopefully I'm not missing anything.
And in March, that was 7 to 9 or 5 to 7? Or something else.
What's that?
What time for the March meeting?
I have 5 p.m., but I'm
Okay.
flexible. Okay. And then after we hopefully make a decision, and again, the decision could be giving the council just one map, and maybe that works. The law office would appreciate that. And because the law office has to do a lot of work on that. So assuming that we have one that we get a majority vote for, and then I don't know if we want to offer a second and third as minority votes, or, you know, as we offer them our ranking. And then after that, I think that's it.
And then you'll present to a work session.
Yep.
We'll schedule at that time.
Okay, is the March 15th meeting an in-person or will that be virtual?
What do you all prefer? I think at that point, we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
Officially, I mean, I expect that this will change before then. Officially, we're doing all public or all meetings virtually still, unless there's a reason, like for your public hearing where you have a reason to do it in person. So
Okay,
I'm fine leaving it as
virtual.
it's virtual.
and we tend to get better turnout for members. You get better turnout for virtual meetings then because it's more
Okay.
convenient.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm asking because the last time we met at the police department, so the task force itself, do we stay warm and cozy in our homes, or are we gonna meet someplace and do that where we interact physically as a task force?
What do you prefer?
Depends on the weather. I was, you know what, if we can do it at the command center again, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I always prefer in person if possible.
Yeah, and if we're not doing a bunch of map comparison at that point, if you're just voting on a final map, we can meet in a regular conference room. It doesn't need to be at the.
Okay.
We like the command center though.
Yeah, I liked it.
It was all official.
Could I ask if all the legal, everything that we're trying to do, I know we keep going back to that, but is anyone checking all of that on these maps before we move forward instead of waiting till the end?
Do you mean the integrity of the maps, that everything's
Yes.
within? I mean, I've been running it through my program on maps 1B and 6. We do have that gap in geometry still around wards 5 and 6, you know, where it kind of jumps, but that's how it is now. And so I don't know if that's an issue at all, but as far as all the numbers, based on my automated test, everything looks fine otherwise.
I agree. I just didn't know if to me, it would be, you know, silly to go too far ahead without having something checked up, you know.
Okay.
And you were when about meeting with the lawyers or something. I mean, don't go to the end and then have to come back and redo.
I have a question about the public hearing. And just simply, what is our expectation? What do we want to have when we're on the other side of that? Do we want to have an idea of what the map, the preferred map is from the people who show up? Or do we just want to have commentary about each of the maps? Because I think, I mean, if we go into it thinking that we're going to have, you know, some sort of a consensus from the public, that changes things for us rather than just presenting these maps as the 3 possibilities and give your comments about each one of the 3. I
would suggest that we discuss, like, I can do an overview of some of the basics that we all have covered. Hillary, did you want to, I see your hand up. Do you want to answer that?
Sorry. I just wanted to add in that at this point, the 3 maps that you've approved tonight will go out with we'll host those on the website. And those will go out, the public notice that we send out this week will have a link so that people can go and look at those maps in advance. So hopefully the people attending the public hearing will have already looked at the maps before they come to the public hearing.
So my basic question is, are we just soliciting comments about each of the 3 maps, or are we asking for, so to speak, a vote?
Not a vote, just comments.
Okay.
I would also like to ask about the representative, like her name was Laura Gutierrez, and the African-American was Ajayi. I'm not sure, I apologize for not saying.
Adetola Ajayi.
Ajayi, I apologize. But should they be there making sure, I'm just trying to cover our bases before we get too much further along. Are they invited? Are they aware of our schedule and so forth?
They will be invited. I'll make sure that they're aware of it. And I'll also make sure that they get the maps on their desk tomorrow so that they can submit comments if they're not available that evening.
Thank you.
I will plan to do a general overview for the public, just the basics about what our mission is, what we had to do, what we could do. If I could ask Greg to maybe discuss what the changes in map 1B, and Marianne for map 3, and Harold for Ward 6, if that's okay. Just plan to just quickly touch on what your objectives were, or what, I don't mean to make it personal to make it your maps. And I don't want to present it that way, but just what the maps accomplish is probably a better way to say it. And so Hillary, I did come up with what the conflict was. We do have another meeting in April on the 19th, and that's the one I have a conflict with. So remember, going back is, and that meeting should be really short, because March we're voting on what we recommend. We then send it to the law office to write it all up, but it's when the law office has it written up that we come back in April to say, yes, send this to council. So I think that's just all decisions have been made. We just need a formal vote once we have the legal version in hand.
And a vote on the report, the written report. So that could be done virtually, and it could be done anytime. So I think the best course of action right now is probably not to advertise that last meeting. We'll keep that off of the press release, and then we can schedule that at your convenience virtually.
Can we schedule it now, and just so we have it on the books for everyone's schedule? Is that a problem?
No, the only thing is I just want to make sure, I'd rather check with the law office first to find out when we'll have all the materials available for you to vote on.
Okay, so we won't set a formal date, but is April 13th, does that look good as a prospective date? But we'll have to wait for the law office to see if they're ready by then.
Right.
All right, so I'll pencil that in the 13th, but it's really pencil because the law office might say they need 5 weeks or 6 weeks to be ready for us.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that I'm ready by the next meeting to discuss this so you all can vote on a final meeting date.
All right. Okay, I think that's everything then. Did I leave anything out that anyone wants to discuss? We discussed the survey, press release, English and Spanish, timing, minutes, 6 maps, and requests by other council members. Oh, just so you know, by the way, we looked at requests from Ross. His suggestion moved. It was like 500 people, so it became at Ward 6. So it was obviously way too many people. And then Ellie's suggestion is actually accomplished in 1B and maybe even 3, and it was about Overy Court. So it's at least considered in one of the proposals. By luck, it was in 1B anyway. So just to close that was my list of things to make sure we touched on. All right, I think that's all I got. I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn if anyone would like to make
Motion
some
to
motion.
adjourn.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Fine.